Hello, this is Andrew Spiker, and this is a quick overview of the major features that now exist in the latest refresh of the XML feature pack, which is currently in open beta where you can download from the site that we're showing here. First off, this is the refresh of the beta that actually gets us to the full specification support for the three major standards that we're supporting within this feature pack. We'll have full xQuery 1.0 support for minimal conformance, and in addition to that, we'll be supporting the optional features of full access and serialization. We also have the XPath, full XPath 2 support, and that would include the XPath 1 backwards compatibility mode as well as schema awareness. And finally, we have full XSLT 2.0 support. That would also include the XSLT 1 backwards compatibility mode and schema awareness. There are also changes to the API to invoke these standards. We've changed the API to cover more of the features that we've added as we've gotten full specification support. We've also had a couple usability studies that have suggested some things to change within the API, and we've implemented them. So let's take a look at a couple of the new features. If you go to the samples that ship with the feature pack, all with code, and you can download it and take a look at each one of these. In the previous demo, we actually showed the end-to-end xQuery application, which is new with this refresh. And in previous betas, we showed the XSLT and XPath end-to-end applications. So I want to look a little bit at the simple invocation examples for the three different standards and show you the new features that come with this refresh in addition to the features that I've shown before. In XPath, and this actually goes across the three standards, but it's good to start with and show in XPath, I'm showing collation support here. So this shows in the German locale. I'm doing a comparison using the XPath and XQuery functions and operators to compare the strings Strasser and Strasser. The important thing is that the sharp S will match two S's within that locale. And you can see when I do a compare, which should return 0 if they're the same, I get a true result. And that's a really important thing. Previously in XPath 1, you only had a Unicode comparison, and these things would be different. But in certain languages, it's very important to be able to understand the strings that are being compared. You'll see that again in XSLT. So in XSLT, let's look at two of the new features. Here you'll see use when. So if I open the use when XSL, just to show you an example of use when, and view the page source, you can see the new instruction, or actually attribute on a template use when. And this is a really good usage of it when you're doing migration, but you can also do this on any XPath selector statement. But you can see what we're doing here is we basically have two different top-level templates. One that gets run if the XSL version is 2.0, a different that gets run if it's the older 1.0. And in this way, we can implement workarounds for things that are new in 2.0 in 1.0 as we migrate our style sheets forward. And the same style sheet will execute even though there are instructions down here in the 2.0 part of the style sheet that would only run in 2.0. We can use the use when attribute to be able to control that. Going back to the other XSLT new features, again focusing on collation. So you can see much like in the XSLT case, or sorry, in the XPath case, you can see that I'm running a collation XSL here. And if I look at the collation and look at the source, you can see what I'm doing is I'm doing a for each group, and I'm selecting by the name and grouping by the last, and again using the German collation. And if I look at the input data, you can see that I have two different German names that both have, as you saw in XPath, equivalent last names. In XSLT1, you wouldn't have seen them in the same group. But if you go to XSLT2 and you use the collation support, you can actually see that we recognize within that locale that those are the same and should be grouped together. Finally, with xQuery, we rounded out the specification support in this beta to have full xQuery 1.0 support. And one of the areas was the type switch instruction within xQuery. And you can see that we're doing type switch. And you can see with type switch, you're able to switch on the type of a variable, and you can do things like if the function declared here is passed a date, handle it one way. If it's passed a string, handle it a different way. And that allows you to do interesting things that understand the types of the data being passed around within your xQuery. So across XPath, XSLT, and xQuery, these simple invocation samples will show you what you can do across the three languages. And at this point with this beta refresh, we're specification complete across the three standards. One of the other things we focused on for this beta refresh was development and deployment support for applications using the feature pack. In the previous beta, there were tools for doing pre-compilation of XML artifacts. And the reason why you'd want to pre-compile something is if something is statically known at build time, you can get much more performance out of your application running within the application server by compiling it at build time. And we provided command line tools, as you can see here, compile XPath, compile xQuery, and compile XSLT. At the time of the previous beta, we really limited the options of what you could do when you were doing pre-compilation. With this beta refresh, we basically have opened up all options that you would need for these tools. So you can see if I run the compile XPath utility, you can see that there are many options of what you can specify as you're doing the pre-compilation. Also around build support, one of the other things we added for pre-compilation was command line files are great for sort of writing scripts that put together a build, but many times we realize people are building using Ant. And what we did is we wrapped those same pre-compilation utility classes with Ant tasks. So you can see here we can define a task for the three different tools for compiling the artifacts, and you can see that then we get a Ant instruction for compiling XPath with some fairly simple options. It actually has the same options and for XSLT and xQuery. On the deployment side, a very important thing that we added in this refresh as well is all these samples that I've been running. I've actually been running with Java 2 security enabled. So this is the administration console for the WebSphere application server, and you can see that I've got Java 2 security turned on, and the runtime now handles running within a secure processing environment on top of Java 2 security, which is really an important thing when you're using security within your production systems. Might not have been an important thing as you were developing the application, but when you run this within a secure sort of shared environment within your enterprise, this is an important feature that we added in this beta as well. So to recap, this beta refresh is really the beta refresh where you get all three of the major standards that we're supporting within this feature pack at the levels of the W3 standards of XPath 2, XSLT2, and xQuery 1.0. We've updated the API. We've provided lots more samples for you to understand how to use the technology, and we focused on the development and deployment support of your applications using the feature pack. Thank you.